Yes. Blessings, Jean. Oh, hi.
Nice to be here.
It is so good to have you. Welcome, welcome, welcome with all of my heart.
Thank
What
you.
a powerful time to come together. I do want to give an introduction to the show for those that might be just hopping on, and then I want to give an introduction to you for folks who are just getting to know you, and then I want to give Desposyni a little intro. So here we go. Blessings and welcome, everyone. I am Tuesday May Thomas. This is my weekly live stream, 4D Trinity. And it is here that we have conversations and share on topics and themes of the heart. My guidance, the anchor point that I hold in our collective, is to gift us that awareness that fourth dimensional consciousness is the consciousness in our heart space. And we know everything going on in the world right now, this is what's awakening. It is that Christ consciousness that is activating through each and every one of us in the collective. And this is why I feel like it's so powerful to have you here with us now, Jean. Now, I want to give you, I have it copied here. I did a little screenshot because I want to give you your full words. So I'm going to read it word for word. Jean Galliano shares her insights through poetry, visual imagery, public forums, articles, and screenplays. Jean's books are entitled Angel's Eye and ... is What a Poet Said. She has completed 4 feature-length screenplays for hire and has an IMDb credit for script editor of The Lost Girl, a feature-length screenplay. Jean is the founder of the Mystery School lecture series and is one of the facilitators of the Poetry for Your Mind Forum in Philadelphia. There's so much going on. Now, you've written this amazing screenplay. I gotta say, 105 pages, you got all this in. It's called Desposyni. There's a lot here. I just want to give a little introduction. Desposyni is based on the legends of Mary Magdalene and Saint Sarah Lakali, the Black Madonnas. So this screenplay has won, what I researched on your page is 20 film awards for this screenplay. A lot of them first place. We are ready for this story. So please take us in, the Black Madonnas. Tell us, because this is just incredible stuff for folks that don't know. So please welcome with so much love. Tell us why this story.
Oh, thank you, Tuesday, for having me on 4D Trinity. I'm so happy to be here. This is really great. This story, it goes way back to a time when I had a near-death experience. And I went out of body, and like most people who go out of body in a near-death experience, they're changed when they come back. And it changed me, and it made me seek out the esoteric world, I guess you can call it, the spiritual world. And I had many OBEs after the initial NDE. And in my OBEs, I went places that had nothing to do with my life. It was as if I was in a quantum leap or something, and I'd find myself in some circumstance in biblical times, and I wouldn't really understand what was happening to me. So, I'm a writer, so I just kept taking notes. And I kept writing it down for years and years. And a very good friend of mine at one point gave me a hypnosis session, and he said, what you're experiencing is projecting into this one person's life when she's 5, and when she's 9, and when she's 12, and when she's 16. And then I realized that it was all one story. And then I began to do research on it, and I was always inspired by Mary Magdalene, really, because the Da Vinci Code lit all of us up with wonder, and we wanted to know more, and I knew it had something to do with that. And when I found out that Mary had been in France and in Egypt, and that she was, in fact, of Ethiopian origin. And mostly none of the things we know about Mary that have survived are true, and so I I became greatly inspired, and I began to write and write, and I had several incarnations of Desposyni, but this was the one that really came forward through the eyes of a character, an orphan child named Amora, who's really Grecian in the play. Yes.
And so the Black Madonna grid is just, it's so interesting, because when I was researching it a bit, realizing that this is really this aspect that goes back to the root, to the mother of Africa, and all the different variations, Isis, Kali Ma in Indian culture, just in every culture has a depiction of it. And then these things that were blowing my mind is that there's over 500, I think, of these statues of the Black Madonnas just in Europe alone.
Yes.
And that over the years, there's these stories where robbers would come in to these churches or these sacred, places, these chapels, to try to steal the Black Madonna. And as soon as these 6 guys or whatever would try to lift it, and then it would become as heavy as lead, and they couldn't move it. And they would hear a voice coming from the statue, and that would freak them out enough to get them to say okay, forget it. And there's even a story about a painting of a Black Madonna that they actually were able to lift from the chapel and put into a horse-drawn carriage, but the horses would not budge. The horses were like, oh no, we're not going. Now, and she's also the saint of she's Mary Magdalene, which I want to hear a little bit more of your insight with that regarding Desposyni, but also that the gifter of miracles, that many people go to the Black Madonna and pray for miracles. Can you speak on a little more on the Black Madonna grid and that aspect?
Well, there's that whole legend in southern France and mostly in Europe. In Europe, they know the Cathars, the Templars were protecting that secret. There was a deep secret, a deep hidden secret, especially about Mary. There was a lot of hidden things. The fact that she was a princess, that she was from the lost tribe of Dan in Ethiopia, that she was descendant of the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon. And when the legend led over to France, Gaul at the time, and most of Europe began to depict that story, that legend over and over again through the art, through the history, but it still went underground. And people in my state, there's the Shrine of the Black Madonna in Doylestown, not an hour and a half from where I live, and no one really knows who this person is. It's either the mother of Jesus, which makes Jesus black, or it's the wife of Jesus, which makes Jesus' child black.
And this is it, because as well, there's this aspect of is the Virgin Mary, or the Black Madonna, is it the same thing as the Virgin and Mary Magdalene? Are they the same person? There's another quantum kind of a shift, where the ley lines and the timelines of this consciousness, where there's a certain amount of people that feel, that it's the same person somehow. And
well, it's that goddess energy that comes through again and again through every culture. We have the Egyptian goddesses. It goes far back to Mesopotamia, where there's Ishtar and there is the Mari. There's even a city called Mari, which I address. I don't call Mary in the play Mary Magdalene. We call her the Mari of Magdala, because Mari is it suffices as a title. It says you will be Mr. or Mrs. or Sir. It's a level of initiation at that time. So that's why it seems everyone was named Mary, but it wasn't really that, And William Henry concurs with me on this, that Mari was actually a title. So if you received a level of initiation, in the sect, you became a Mari. You were a neophyte, you were at different levels, and then when you became a Mari, you were a high priestess. And if someone addressed you as Mari, you were Mari Rebecca, or Mari Miriam, or, you were Mari Salome. You could have been, and really, Mary Magdalene's name in legend was Makeda, which we never...
Michaela?
Makeda. Makeda with, yeah.
You know, this is so fascinating. And because in the Gospels that Mary Magdalene is depicted as being the apostle of the apostles. Like, she's right there with Jesus, and that he would impart information to her that, where she had information that the other ones didn't receive and whatnot, and where there was almost some, I've read some stuff where there was competition or jealousy because she was getting, this insight from Jesus that they felt they were being left out and whatnot. So it's that divine balance, I think, and this divine feminine that is coming in, which I want to share with you. But let's backtrack just a little, because there may be some folks joining us that at the very beginning of the show you were speaking about NDEs and OBEs, and in case folks are unaware, that stands for near-death experience and out-of-body experience. And so what you were sharing, I just want to make sure that we all understand where your inspiration came from, is that you had a near-death experience, and after that you were having out-of-body experiences, which were putting you in the grids, in the timelines of what you then realized was Mary Magdalene's, like seeing through her eyes or having her experiences. Can you talk just a little more on that?
I think what I was experiencing was the perspective of one of Mary's disciples. Mary had disciples as Jesus had disciples. We can read, like, this story goes way beyond the Gospels. We're into the places Sophia and the Apocrypha and all the Dead Sea Scrolls, and we're going way back to Nag Hammadis, and we're looking for we're all the way back to the Emerald Tablets, looking for information. But this story goes, there's scriptures and legends that have all led and have been interwoven to, bring this story about. Again, it is a story that I have put together from all of the legends and tales, and even modern. There's modern people, of course. Mary is very popular in literature right now. A lot of people are writing, and there's also a lot of Christian movies coming out depicting Mary in a more revered role. We have to really get away from what we've been taught, because it takes away from, if Mary is the divine wife of Jesus, and if the mother is the divine mother, these are all expressions of the goddess, and we need to revere that and recognize what the power is in that. We have to bring that energy back now, especially now, because this balm is needed now in our world more than ever. This love is needed now more than ever.
Yeah, beautifully said and agreed. I totally agree with you. And it is that aspect, and it's interesting to hear what the information and what you've gathered, because for us to know through what you've seen and researched that there is more and more films or information being put out there where this aspect, this divine feminine aspect, is being revered, or there's more complex layers to the story that are being shared now. And so this divine feminine aspect coming in and channeling through you and through this story. And because we haven't seen the movie yet, it's a screenplay still, and we want to talk about Indigogo and your trailer and all this stuff coming up. But so this divine feminine, can you share a little bit, what is your take or your downloads about how that is interconnected? Oh, and as well, I just want to share that Desposyni, the word itself, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but what I've researched in a nutshell is it's just the bloodline of Christ, basically, is what it speaks to. Yeah. So if you, just for a little bit, if you want to talk a little bit about that name, why that name, and how it came, and then also the aspect about divine feminine, if you have anything to share before we get on to the next point.
Okay, well, the name Desposyni largely came from Lawrence Gardner in his Legacy of the Magdalene, in his books. He spoke about the Desposyni, and we're seeing all these things on our videos, and And Lawrence Gardner, used that term, and when I looked that up, I thought, well, because who is Sarah? Sarah is the Desposyni. If Sarah is absolutely the Desposyni. So, and also, there's not so much known about Sarah. She's revered now as Sarah the Black, Saint Sarah La Calle, and mostly in Portugal and Spain, as a healer, mostly by Christians and other sects of gypsies, because when Mary and Sarah ended up in southern France, it was the tribal peoples that took them in, and so it's still their legend comes down through the Cathars and the Templars and in that area. So the goddess energy there, and a lot of people visit there. I'm longing to visit southern France one day and see all these wonderful shrines, But the term itself, when I was thinking about naming the movie, I call it a movie because it's going to be a movie, and in my heart it's already a movie. But when I came to making the title for the screenplay, I kept thinking, well, who is Sarah if she's not the Desposyni? She's the one, and so that's where that came from.
And if I may just interject, for those who are unaware, can you just describe for us? So there's Mary Magdalene, and then there's Sarah. So what's the connection? Just for folks that don't have that connection already.
I see. Well, Sarah, when they arrived in southern France, Mary had a young girl with her. This is the legend, and they assumed the girl was a black girl. She was a black girl, and they assumed she was a slave. But Mary, also dark skinned Ethiopian. So when they arrived there, it became evident because Sarah began to do miracles and healings on people. She's the daughter of Mary Magdalene and Jesus. That's who Sarah is. That's who I'm saying. That's who I'm saying Sarah is. And as far as the Black Madonnas go, and everyone's saying, well, we sort of know, they say, the statues got weathered and turned dark with age, or the paintings got, these are just excuses and explanations that don't make any sense. They're Black Madonnas because they were black people. It's not that hard to figure out. And these are underground. These things are in legend. These are like, what were the secrets of the Cathars? What were why were people getting murdered all over the place? Because no one really wants to see Jesus in this role as a father and a husband. We have an idea of who Jesus is. We have this idea, and we're trying to keep this sanctified. He had to be born of a virgin. He could never have a relationship. How's anybody going to listen to him? If you think back in those days, for a Jewish man to be respected in society, especially if he's 30 years old, no one's going to listen to him if he doesn't have a wife. He's not going to get any respect. And a lot of this story largely was inspired in the words of Jesus and Mary, were inspired in the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ. So we're not getting the same dialogue as we get in the current Gospels that sort of go to Jesus when he's 12, and then they drop off, and then he's 30, and where'd he go? What was his life about for these 18 years? Something happened, in those times. His studies, his travels, his relationships, his family, and
no, I was just going to say it's like mainstream media versus the complex layers of what we can explore that's going on under that first layer that we're massively on a mass level shown is what is, and like Bible stories and whatnot, there's so many layers, as you were saying, and all these ancient scrolls and texts, and they're still like finding stuff. They're still finding these scrolls and these texts that are coming up because we're ready, and it feels so pertinent that this is a part of what you're sharing, and even this aspect that Jesus was a white man. There's been so many debates over that or that if he, he's a Jew, but was he a dark skin? And given where he was living, were more and more people actually darker than are depicted in this mainstream idea of a very white community,
right.
living out these stories. So this is very, very powerful. And again, before we get into the process of you being a screenwriter and Zoki Films and all this stuff, again, if there's any just little nuggets of inspiration that you get about this and how it serves this awakening that we do feel, the Black Madonna, the divine feminine is the womb, is the mother, as you were saying, is the nurturer, and we know we're all coming up and healing in the world powerfully at this time. And I'm mindful just to say what we need, but it feels that, how we have what the world needs now is love, sweet love, and it's just like this is an aspect of that. If you could speak any of your inspiration on that before we move on with the divine feminine.
Oh, well, when I first began to write the words and read the words in the Aquarian Gospel, I understood that these were things that need to be said out again. These were the words, these were the peacemaking words. These were the words that bring us all together and make us all one. No matter what color we are, what's happening here in this play is we're trying to give Mary back her estate and her title. We want to revere Mary. We want to accept that perhaps maybe she was a woman, actually, with a heart and a family, and she had a story, and her story it goes back so far, all the way back through our history, through all the mothers and all the goddesses, and now is the time again. We have to raise this up because, men running the world right now, we really need a lot of female energy coming forward. We need prayers for the world right now. We need this message to come forward. There's a lot of words that need to be said. They are sacred words, and Mary's words have all been taken away from her. This story particularly comes from the perspective of an orphaned Grecian girl, and we kind of get to know Mary and Sarah through the eyes of this girl, and we get to hear Mary's words. We get to hear the words of the Christ, and even Sarah, she's so magical because she's just a little child and she's not even aware of how magical she is.
As many children are, there's that beautiful innocence. And I really appreciate what you're speaking about, this sacred language. I love Carolyn Mace. I'm not sure if you know her. She's just a speaker and an author of many, many years in the spirituality realms. And she speaks a lot about the holy language and how that's been taken out of our vocabulary, and the synapses that connect, and the heart activation, and the coherency of that language, just certain words that have been taken out of our common vocabulary. But when we start to anchor those back in through the grids and through these timelines that we're in together, this brings that divine frequency through us and into our environment. And so thank you for bringing that home too, because I feel that fully, Jean. Anyone just hopping on with us now, I'm interviewing Jean Galliano, screenwriter of I'm so excited for this movie to be made, this amazing film called Desposyni. And she's breaking down Mary Magdalene, the daughter of Jesus Christ, these downloads that she has received, these divine downloads after having a near-death experience and outer body experiences, and just this creative impulse to create this film, the screenplay for this film. So if you just hopped on, I invite you, this is going to be up here at the story for the next 24 hours. I invite you to go back to the beginning because we've covered some juicy stuff. And I'm also going to put this on YouTube later, so I will put links up and all that a little later. So please do go back and watch from the beginning if you're just hopping on. But this is just such a gift to have you here. I'm going to switch gears now with you. But if there's anything you want to go back and say, let's cover this, please let me know, Jean. I want to get into, you as an artist now. You're a poet and everything, and you've written more. I remember, we've hung out a little bit on the side in our little video chat, and this is not your first screenplay. You've written 15 of them, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
And so who are your mentors in your creative realm?
Oh, my mentors, my teachers, well, because of the out-of-body experiences, I discovered Marilyn Hughes of the Out-of-Body Foundation, Out-of-Body Travel Foundation. And she kind of kept me on track as to the sacredness and the divinity of what was happening to me. So she was a great inspiration in kind of keeping me focused on that the experience itself was real, that it meant something, and that I should pay attention to it. So I was very grateful for finding her. Early on, before Marilyn, of course, there was Robert Monroe. And he was close by on the East Coast. He's not with us anymore. He's ascended. But Robert Monroe guided me immensely on my out-of-body travels. And kind of, because when you're talking about that, I mean, we're talking about this is happening in long ago. I don't want to reveal how old I am, but long ago, before the internet, when you had to go to the library, and you had to wait. Sometimes you had to put in a request to get a certain book, But I would wait and I would do the research, and so these people really kept me going. And later on, and I want to give a lot of perks out to William Henry also, and his lovely lady Claire for their series that they have on Gaia, because William has inspired me. I've read most of his books. He writes about Mary Magdalene, the Illuminator, and he really takes it to a level where I haven't experienced this in anybody else's work. I mean, his work is beautiful. He's got The Secrets of Zion, a beautiful picture book that, and I think I carried it around for 3 years with me everywhere I went, because I always needed to be reading that book. It's so comprehensive. So William has deeply inspired me about Mary especially, but about all of the spirituality that he teaches. And I mentioned Lawrence Gardner, and especially also I want to say Betty Johnson. I put a little post about Betty today on my Mystic Artifacts Instagram page. But Betty takes it really deep. She's not afraid to speculate. She goes on the legend. She seeks it out. She does the research, and she was the one that kind of helped me bridge the whole gap there. And I realized that this is what you're dreaming about. This is where you're going. These are the people you're and I made that very deep connection with Betty Johnson's work, and because I couldn't understand. A lot of times I would go in these out of body experiences, and I'm not me. I'm in somebody's. It's like quantum leaping. You never see that show, Quantum Leap? It's quantum leap. I'm like, where am I? And you're there with your 20th century consciousness and some biblical experience. And there's no way to interpret that. You have to bring that back. And like I was painting for a long time and just writing it down in poetry. And I found that poetry is an amazing voice. Because some things you could tell somebody straight out about some experience you have, and there's a little question about that. And they think, well, you might be a little leftover from the 60s, but if you write it in a poem, and you can tell the same story, all of a sudden it's literature and not some crazy talk. So.
And I appreciate many aspects of what you said with, and I can't remember all their names, but at the very beginning in your offering here with this question, you were speaking about someone who really held space for you with your out-of-body experiences and your near-death experience, and who was shining that light and saying, like, look, there's value here. There's something here. This is real. Pay attention. Don't think that you need to sort of say, oh, this is crazy or anything. And so I really wanted to highlight that for all of us in the community when we have these experiences, to share with those individuals in your circles that you're guided to, because there will be someone there who gets it and who sees you and who can hold space for you, no matter how crazy your quantum leaping or something might sound. And with mentors, I really do feel it's a beautiful thing, because we inspire each other. And to, like you're saying, this book you carried around for 3 years, I totally feel that. There's books that I still have for 20 years, that are just like I've taped them and retaped them, and it's more tape than paper. And there's just, because as we grow and we shift and we're on a creative, say, line of inspiration to channel this, whether it's the painting, the poetry, the screenplays, all of it, as we gain more awareness, we see the scriptures, we read the information with that new light, and so our interpretation then channels through us with that greater awareness, and it really, we all serve each other in that way, and it serves, feeding that feedback loop into the grid, into the matrix, so that we can all collectively get whatever we're ready in frequency to receive from it. So I love that aspect of what you're sharing as well. And folks here who follow me, many of them know that I've got a Grid Mind Science page, and that's just dedicated strictly to the screenplay that I'm writing. And now I'm a kindergartner, so I feel fully honored, because I feel like you are becoming a mentor to me, and so I just, it's a very exciting process, just learning, because I've written books, but screenwriting, as you know, and anyone else, any of my other fellow folks here that make movies, that write, because I have a crew of friends here that are in that same realm, who are way more at a whole different level than I am, which I'm grateful to be surrounded by them. And there is this process, and so I'm curious, tell me about the process. How did you get from this idea of and these experiences to final draft?
Well, it took a long time, and as I kept doing research and reading more books, and I would think, somebody has to make a movie of this. Somebody has to make a movie of this. And I kept kind of saying this, and then one day I realized I was somebody. I was being given this, and whether or not I was a screenwriter, because I wasn't. I didn't take any classes. I'm really self-taught. What I did was I began to partner up with people. Went out. The internet was new then. I think it might have been 1999, 2000. And I was putting out advertisements looking for a screenwriter to work with, and I have a story. And I wrote with different people for a long time. I kept having partners, and I kept writing screenplays that were, some of them were Christian-based, some of them were really science-based, because I'm a student of Nassim Haramein, right? So I have a whole science-based sci-fi corner of my screenplay. And at some point, I wrote features. What I would do was, I think about it, I ruminate a lot, and I would mull these things over in my head. And every time you have an idea, you have to jot it down somewhere so you don't forget exactly that idea. And I would take long drives. In Philly, we have something called the East River Drive and the West River Drive, and I drive down one and I drive up the other one, and I would just keep thinking, what does she say? How would he respond? What happens next? Where were they when that happened? And I keep playing it over in my head. And it's not, I think I write one screenplay a year. I don't know. Some people say they can write a screenplay in 30 days. There's 2 weeks to your screenplay. I don't have that. It takes me a long time. I have to really work at it. I have to work at it. And I dream it. I visualize it really hard. Yeah.
I respect and I appreciate that. And I remember and we still are, getting to know each other, but at the beginning, because we were following each other, I think at least for this whole last year, just through my Grid Mind Science page and your Mystic Artifacts page and just liking each other's stuff, and I'd be reposting your stuff onto my main page, and and then I'd be like, oh, she's winning these awards for her screenplay and this Desposyni thing, and what's going on, and it's just this mystery, and then we started connecting in the DMs and talking and whatnot, and I remember when I, that's one of the first things you shared with me is that you said, in your meditations, download, imagine, what are they saying? Where are they? Visualize this. You're saying go for those walks and just let that stream of consciousness come, which I really appreciate. And just to, again, shed light on that for any other artists, authors, screenwriters that are watching this, that it really is a meditation. And just getting in that zone with that divine creative force and letting it show you. There's so much, instead of trying to, force anything or figure it out. So thank you for highlighting that again. It's so important.
Something wonderful happens, and I want to say this to anybody who's afraid to write. The secret is to begin, okay? Because once you begin and once you start putting things down, somewhere midway through, what happens for me is that the characters, they just come alive. They start they start speaking, and you can say, well, he wouldn't say that. That's not, he would say this, and it really the characters take form. They actually kind of just step off the page, and sometimes I feel like when I'm writing, like I'm standing and they're standing all around me, speaking, saying their part, and it's very interesting how at some point the story will begin to take over. I mean, there's been some plays that I've written that I had no idea I was going to kill the guy in the end. And I'm like, what do you mean we're going to kill this guy, You have to kill him? Oh, the guy, but I love him, But it's, this is what has to happen, because the story, when your heart's in it, it really begins to come to life for you. And the secret to it is to make it come to life for the other people, for your readers, for your audience. You want to get people in there who really can identify with these characters, or one character or another. And that's what the process, the trick is, just get started, keep at it. And it eventually, it's gonna be dictating to you what's coming next.
I hear you, because I'm also an artist and, a writer, and it's what I've come to realize is that these things, these paintings, or this book, or this article, whatever it is that I'm focusing that creative intention into, it's its own entity. It has its own voice. And yes, it's inviting you to play with it, and you color your colors of the palette and your interpretations too, but it does have something to say and to channel for the higher good if you allow that filter, to be what it is. And so, absolutely, thank you for bringing that home too, because they have voices, and they can guide us and tell us. You
just have to get out of the way and let them talk. You have to get out of the way. Any kind of channeling you're doing,
yes.
Eventually you have to realize that you have to get out of the way of it and let it come through.
Absolutely.
That's really it.
It is. As a Reiki teacher of 20 years, that's the foundation. And it's like, if that's all we remember as students and facilitators of Reiki, to get out of the way and let the love flow through you. Marianne Williamson has this saying, be the faucet, not the water, and just let it flow. Now, your production, or I'm calling it a production, your film is Desposyni, that we're talking about today, is become associated with Zofi Pictures, which is a new, this is all new to me, getting to know who these production companies and these, all these people are. But for other, artists out there that are doing their thing, how was Desposyni noticed by them? Like, what happened? How did that work?
Okay, so I began, when Desposyni was finished, I began putting it in competition, because I really, I really want to see how it how it would go. And so it began coming back with official selections and semifinalists and finalists, and I was getting really excited, like, wow, people like this. This is really good. Well, it won the Jewish Film Festival in Israel, sponsored by Jonathan Zofi of Zofi Pictures. And, when I saw I wasn't sure if I should enter the competition because I saw it was the Jewish Film Festival and kind of thought it was for Jewish people, but it had a little tagline behind it that said, Malek Ha-Malakam, which, excuse me if I'm not saying that right, Jewish people, but it means King of Kings. And I thought, well, this maybe they're looking for something about Jesus, So I wrote to him and I said, I have a screenplay. I'm not Jewish, but it's about Jewish people. And he said, yeah, sure, we want to read it. We want to see it. So I entered the competition and it won. And I was so elated. Oh, wow, this is really beautiful. And they were so, Jonathan and all of them at the competition, they were all so warm, and Jonathan's been really great. He really has responded to the play. He loves it. He wants to make it. Zofi Pictures wants to make the play, and they've agreed now to do a trailer for us, and that's what the fundraiser is about at Indigogo. So we're fundraising to get our trailer done, hopefully to entice investors to come our way to make this movie. But Jonathan Zofi and Zofi Pictures have it. You can go to their website, ZofiPictures.com, and they have Blood of Jerusalem, and they have several films already, and they do music videos, and they're based in New Zealand as far as I know, but they have offices, worldwide. They're international. So I'm so excited to be with them, and I just can't really wait to meet them. I can't wait to meet Jonathan and all of his people, and that's
well. And isn't this amazing? So they're based in New Zealand, so you haven't actually had the hangout and the cup of coffee or the whatever. You haven't been in the same physical dimension as them. We'll say.
No, we're in the cyber dimension. We're still in the cyber dimension.
Yes, and. Again, just this word, I remember when I first was getting my inspiration to write the screenplay and for Grig Mind Science, and then realizing that I had this amazing, all these people who've been like my yoga students or roommates of a friend from the past, or just these random people that now we're all still following each other on social, where I'm like, they write screenplays, she's made short movies, this person does this and that. And so I'd reach out to them, I'd say, hey, can I get on the phone with you for half an hour and just tell you what I'm doing, and just any guidance or downloads that you would have for me, because I'm lost and I'm just trying to read books and figure things out. And that's funny enough, what a lot of them would say would just be like, keep reading books, keep getting your information. But as well, a lot of the collective was saying, what do you see for this? And all I get is the film festival circuit so far for my vision for this film, and how to circulate the messages. And they're like, well, you want to get into as many award, you want to enter it for as many film festival or film awards as possible. Right. And I see that's this beautiful template, because again, Desposyni has won 20 film awards. It's not even a movie yet, but there's a recognition of the power of the words that have come through in your screenplay for this, where people are going, yeah, we see this, we hear this is important now, this is valid. And by you just following that guidance to put your screenplay out there, now this is how Zofi Pictures is taking an interest, that you haven't even met these people that are all the way over in New Zealand, but that are like, we want to make a trailer. And I know in your pitch deck, which, and I'm going to hit the Indiegogo before the next question we have for you, just to tell people if they want to support. But there's this really cool pitch deck at Indiegogo for Desposyni, and DM me. I know this week we're being very mindful of what we're posting, but I will put all of this information with links later for you, because I know that Indiegogo, that you're inviting people to support financing the trailer for this movie. And in the pitch deck, you have at the top notch, this is a $5 million movie. And and we understand them when we think about, just the aspects of the grandeur that are included in the vision of this, and how it should be. And the word "should" is whatever it is, but how it should be revered and given that level,
Yes.
Of just majesty. This story, but people can go to Indigogo, look up Desposyni. I know the poster is up on my story at Instagram. If they're like, how do you spell that? Or because this was a new word for me. I'll tell you, this was a new word for me. But you can look at the pitch deck and get a sense of the pictures, of the feeling, of the energy, of the frequency of what you have been guided to give as like a set point for us to envision into the greater vision of this. So for folks that are interested, go to Indiegogo. However much they want to support, you receive it, I'm sure. For this trailer, this is going to be so amazing. I'm so excited for you and for this project. And so with this project, where are things at now with Desposyni?
All right, so that's basically where we are. I'm hoping that to get the trailer started sometime in the summer, July, August, and I'm hoping to have that by the end of the year. Yeah, so basically that's where we are. I have a person helping me with promotion, my good friend Frederick, and he directs me out on getting the pitch deck, getting the poster, getting interest. So he's been directing me pretty well ways along. And once we have the trailer finished, then we're at another level of pitching. I'm hoping to pitch this play in my city of Philadelphia first. I would like this to come out of my city, and I'm hoping to find investors here. So if there's investors in Philadelphia, here I am. We have something great. We have something really great. Look at the pitch deck. You will see. So I'm hoping that the next level will be having the finished trailer, getting in front of the Arts and Business Council, pitching to the investors in my city, hoping that they're going to, support me. If not, then we'll branch out nationally, maybe internationally if we have to. But this is where we are now, and what we're planning to. And I have a very nice manager, and I have a lot of support from my followers and friends. And I just feel it's been like an unfolding flower. It's just been one thing after the next has fallen into place, and so that's how I see the film coming about. I hope it's going to just fall into place the way everything else has.
How beautiful! And I know that in one of our previous conversations together, you had said that, and obviously, tell me if I'm wrong, but did you say it took you 4 years for the screenplay to find its completion?
Well, it made several incarnations. This particular draft, I started, 2016, 2017, and in 2018 I began to put it in competition. So it's been about 4 years. Yeah, it seems like, wow, the time goes by so quickly, It took a year to really solidify, get myself into final draft. But there's a lot of things that go along with it. You think you're going to write a screenplay and you're going to get to this final draft, but there's a lot of other things to it. You need log lines and synopsises, long ones and short ones, and treatments. You got to have character, lists and that descriptions and query letters, and there's a lot, and you think you got this story to tell, but then there's all this other business and things to it that you really have to figure out, and you're not really done. And if you have something that's really good and really sacred and really special, people will support you, because people need that. We're in a spiritual deficit in our world today. People don't really know what to think or believe. That's why there's this surgence of spirituality happening, and the delving into the mysticism and all the esotericism and ancient civilization, and what did they know and how did they do it, and we need as much uplifting spiritual stories we are, as humanity, we are the sum of our stories, and we need to rise to our best selves. And so, for this story is my heart, and I'm hoping that it be uplifting and enlightening for people around the world to bridge the gaps, like especially gaps that we're having racially, because that's what's happening now. And in my play, Mary Magdalene is a black Ethiopian woman, and the child of Jesus, and Mary Magdalene is Sarah the Black, and these are things, these are titles, these are positions, these are things that we need to recognize and come together on. That it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to love everyone. It's okay, and so this is what I'm striving for, that this is something that can bridge the gap, and I know I'm expecting that there'll be haters and people who won't agree with this, and I've already had people just give me no, Jesus didn't have any children, and I know there's staunch evangelism out there, that there's a set of beliefs that it's very hard to be pliable and come up and think of a different way. But there are people out there who need this and will see this story as valuable and beautiful, and it's those people, and hopefully everyone, I hope to uplift with this tale.
How beautiful, and it is so important because this is a conversation that's ready to be had, and it feels, divinely inspired through the channel of you and who else, people all over the world that maybe are publishing little articles or making little, their own little paintings or big visions about this, and how we are ready. And obviously through all of the awards that your screenplay has won, that we're ready for this conversation to have in the collective. And I really appreciate you sharing about, your process, because as artists, I think there's we go through levels as artists, and we begin to learn the grace of letting go of time and really just being held by that beautiful process, the nectar of channeling that and co-creating whatever it is, the screenplay, the painting, the book, whatever it might be, and to really be patient with ourselves. And I feel that was something that I wanted to highlight that you shared, because it, to let us know that as long as you keep showing up in honor of whatever you feel guided and fueled to create, that support will be there. You will be seen. The right people will show up at the right time. And like you were talking about, there could be a certain level of haters, of people that just will be like, no, just drawing the line in the sand. And I know it's interesting in a bubble of light, but at my Grid Mind Science page, which is just notes on where I just share notes on the movie that I'm making in my head and in my heart, I've gotten so much pushback in a bubble of light from men who assume just because the word science is in the title of my page that I'm a dude. And when they find out that I'm a lady speaking about the bridging the metaphysics of science and spirituality, the metaphysics of love, healing, and ascension, I can't, just the pushback. And I haven't even written the whole, I'm on Act 2. I'm like in the first quarter of Act 2. I'm not even, but it's like, and just for me being a woman, and I'm not saying this to incite that grid or to fire that grid or to make it, a reality yet. And I didn't even know it was a thing until I started showing up and being there. And then they're like, oh, you pseudoscientists and this isn't real science. And, these hardcore classical scientists where everything has to be math. And, and what I'm coming through is these more subtle aspects of bridging that gap between, consciousness, science, spirituality. And so I hear you. I'm not even out the gate yet, and there's already the pushback from certain quadrants. And so I've had to learn, obviously not to take it personal, because it's not about me, but it's about the message. So anyone else out there that's guided as you are, as I am, to share a message that really is inclusive, keep going. Don't let them get you down. Don't let them get into your psyche, and just stay in your heart, and channel that truth, because it's so needed. Now, we have about 5 minutes left, so I did want to just say, everyone, thank you for being here. Thank you for waving, for sharing, for just being present today. If you are just hopped on, or you only hopped on at the end or halfway, please go back. This will be in my stories for the next 24 hours. I am going to get it on YouTube eventually, so next week or whatnot, I'll repost the links about all that. But this is a very powerful screenplay, Desposyni, that Jean Galliano, who's my guest here today, has written about Mary Magdalene and Jesus' daughter, Sarah, and the Black Madonnas. And this is just such a powerful revisionary, story about the story, or the stories, that I feel that we're ready for at this time. There's an Indigogo, what do we call it?
Campaign.
What's that? Campaign. Thank you. Where folks can go to at Indigogo and just type in Desposyni. Go to my story. If you don't know how to spell it, it's the poster for Jean's movie is up. And you can contribute if you feel there's value here, and that the story, this revisionist portrait, you can read the blurb about what her vision is for it there, or go back and watch this whole interview and get the vibe. And if you're like, I feel guided to gift, however much Spirit guides you to gift towards the making of the trailer for this, because again, this is a screenplay that Jean wrote. Yet we all know, I feel it, like as soon as I started getting down with what you're sharing and reading about it, and I was like, oh no, this is already done. This is already done. It's just a matter of matter matching it in this 3D, and the beautiful gift and the process of the creation of all those beautiful beings coming together to make this, in this third dimension of reality in a movie. So if you want to support her, number one, Indigogo, Desposyni, pitch in to the campaign, read about it, check out the pitch deck there. Follow Jean on Instagram here. It is at Mystic Artifacts. Again, I'll post about that. And if there's any questions, DM me. If you need anything you want to know about Jean at all that you might have missed. What else do we need to cover here? My goodness, we got about 2 minutes. Jean, I'm going to give it to you. What do you want to share with us going out?
Oh boy, so really I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, and I want to thank you, Tuesday, for all the great kind words you're saying, the gift of your time, and this beautiful platform that you have that help people raise awareness and consciousness about the grid, because we're all connected.
That's right.
It's a connected universe, okay? And we're going to get away from that disconnected universe, and we're going to come together now, especially now, in the times that we're having now. And I want to close out and just say, I want to thank the Great Spirit, and I want to thank everybody involved who's been helping me along the road here, and who's gotten involved, and all of my supporters, and all my associates, and everybody who's just been a part of this. It's been really great. It's growing and growing and growing, and this message is a message that's going to be heard. It's going to be heard, and we're all doing our part, and we're all part of raising the consciousness. And it's a prayer now. It's a prayer for peace in our world, for our joy to return, for our illnesses to be lifted and our hearts to be light again, and so that we can share in our stories, all of them, in a divine and beautiful way that raises us to a higher consciousness, because that's where we're going. If we were in a higher consciousness, we would understand how to respond to the situations that are happening now. So I want to pray for that, not just I want to pray for Desposyni for its message for the world, and that's one of peace and of hope and of solace and of healing. And I just,
you got 5 seconds.
Thank you, everyone. Much love. Love you.